Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/supportbuddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to understand the path to enlightenment as taught by the Buddha. Today we're going to be learning chapter 15, which is titled True Love, Love Without Attachment. This is where you can understand what is true love. So the more that you understand it, the more you can practice it, and you'll see very fulfilling, satisfying, and sustaining relationships. If you're having difficulties or challenges in your relationships, you'll see that it's because the mind doesn't understand what is true love, and you're not practicing true love. So by understanding this topic and then practicing true love, you'll see your relationships really improve, where more and more you'll be able to experience love coming back to you. The way that we start our classes is with meditation. So I'm going to be guiding you in a meditation session, but then afterwards I'm going to be sharing with you this topic of true love, helping you to understand what true love is and how to actually practice it in your day-to-day life within all your relationships. This is an important topic to be able to help you move your mind to enlightenment. The Buddha figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind no longer experiences any discontent feelings. By the time an individual gets to enlightenment, they're no longer experiencing any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. This is coming through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think these feelings are coming from something external, but in reality, it's actually coming from your own mind. You'll be able to see that through independently verifying the teachings of the Buddha, and looking at your own life, you'll be able to independently see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And that's why you can actually eliminate them. The Buddha figured out how to do that on his own, and then he shared those teachings for the rest of his life, helping other people to be able to get to that same mental state. So meditation is important, and that's why we do it as part of our classes, and you'll need to build up a meditation practice in order to be able to move your mind to enlightenment. But there's other things besides meditation that you would need to be able to get to enlightenment. But you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So we start our meditation with some chanting to ease the mind into meditation. And I see some of you guys have the daily chanting sheets. They're over there on the cabinet, and I think somebody put some here in front of the white bowl. You're welcome to help yourself to one of the daily chanting sheets. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to help them to remember the teachings, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So it was a learning tool, it was a learning device. Where nowadays we don't use chanting for that. We use it to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It's important to understand that when you're chanting, this isn't a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that. If you've seen those kinds of things related to the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't actually the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer, because he's teaching you to train your mind, cultivating wisdom, and moving your mind to this enlightened mental state. And there's no amount of rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer that's going to do that for you. The teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. It's based in cultivating wisdom and training the mind. So these chants, while they were used during the lifetime of the Buddha as a way to remember teachings, today we use them in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of respect and gratitude and appreciation appreciation for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't even think the Buddha created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't go around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, because this would be ego. This would be somebody putting themselves above you. Where a Buddha, an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, they wouldn't put themselves above other people. They would see themselves as being equal among all people. So these chants, I suspect, were created by his students during his life or after his death, because if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, sadness, frustration, and all those other discontent feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state, which is a permanent mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's where I suspect these chants actually came from. So I'm going to be chanting them on the way into meditation, and you're welcome to chant along. You'll see that you'll actually get more benefit out of your meditation if you choose to chant on the way into meditation. And then after that, I'm going to come in with some guidance to be able to guide you during meditation, where I'm essentially instructing you and teaching you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating. Now, during this period of time of quietness where you hear, and those of you that are online, we're all meditating together, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, people might sneeze or cough here at the temple. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be frustrated or annoyed. That's your own mind that's doing that. It's craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way, but yet you live in an impermanent world. So if you understand impermanence, that things are going to arise, they're going to change, they're going to fade away, when you're in meditation and you hear that sound, you just know that, yeah, that's normal, because the world is impermanent. You're not going to be able to be in permanent silence. So then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. That'll end our meditation. And that's where I'll move into today's talk about true love, helping you guys to understand this topic. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times, because your body's not going to be able to be permanently in the same position all the time. You're going to need these different positions. It's kind of like having a tool belt and then using these different tools at different times in your journey to enlightenment. So I teach these in the different courses or retreats that I share. But since some of you might be just getting started with meditation, I'll share with you some details on the seated position. What I'm going to share with you are just suggestions, just recommendations, because there's not just one way to sit, because that would be permanence. Everybody's body's a little bit different, and we're going to find different things to be comfortable. So you find whatever's comfortable for you, whether it's something that I share with you or something that you figured out on your own. You can sit however you like, because we're not training the body, we're training the mind. That's what the teachings of the Buddha are all about. But if you're on the floor in a chair, maybe if you're at home on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair, you can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat a bit, make it nice and comfortable for you to sit on the floor. If you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly, whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but maybe it's not comfortable. There's other options here for you as well. You could put your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people like to put their palms up. Some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can do whatever's comfortable for you. Same thing for anybody in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect, with your sternum up and your shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So by having the upper body in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert to be able to actively train the mind, but it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to do the chanting. You're welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Savakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatava Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Good morning. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. As I was sharing, today's our group learning program, and I'm going to share a topic with you guys related to true love, helping you guys to understand what this is. But first, let me just talk a little bit about what enlightenment is so you understand how understanding true love fits into attaining that mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind has been trained to no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. The mind's completely stable, steady, it's unshakable. The mind will be focused, you'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. This is coming through uprooting pollutions that are in the mind. The Buddha discovered these 10 individual pollutions in the mind, and when you train your mind and you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, slowly but surely you're gradually training the mind to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can see this in his own words. He talks about it in his original teachings. So you're gradually training the mind to uproot these pollutions, and as you do, you see more and more qualities of the enlightened mental state shining through. It's almost like the sun, and there's clouds in front of the sun, and you peel away these clouds, and as you do, the rays of the sun are shining through. So while we talk about it as attaining enlightenment, you might actually think about it as the mind's already enlightened. You just need to get the pollutions out of the way that are hindering you from being able to experience those qualities of the enlightened mind. So not only is the mind focused, concentrated, you have clarity of mind, deep memory, and all these other benefits, but you'll notice your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. They're really at ease by the time you get to enlightenment, and you're gradually seeing this transformation in your life. Because in the unenlightened state, there's a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility in the mind. And that's coming from your own mind. And when you put that out towards other people in your relationships, that all comes back to you in your day-to-day interactions with other people. So you can't live harmoniously with all beings as long as your mind has these pollutions. It's only a matter of time before you get bitter and harsh and hostile. And now you put that out through your intentions, speech, and actions, and it just comes back to you. You can see in the relationships where you have bitterness and hostility and you're putting that out, it just comes back to you in those same relationships. So you can actually transform your mind and get to the point where you're no longer experiencing this. But you need the wisdom of how to do that. Just like you have the wisdom of how to clean this body, and that's something that you learned growing up, how to take a shower and how to have personal hygiene, and you needed that wisdom, and over time you gradually learned that, and now you're able to do that on your own. There's another part to this being. There's the mind. So there's the physical body, but there's also the mind. And if you haven't learned the wisdom of how to clean the mind, there's no wonder that an individual walks around with stress and anxiety and guilt and shame and fear and all these other discontent feelings, because the mind is not clean. That's what the path to enlightenment is to purify the mind of the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even experience a bad mood any longer. That it's impossible for the mind to experience a bad mood because the causes and conditions that produce it have been uprooted. So the thing that's hindering an individual from experiencing the harmonious relationships is the pollutions within one's own mind. And the number one pollution is something referred to as the unknowing of true reality or the lack of wisdom. Some people refer to it as ignorance, but I don't tend to refer to it this way because it's a derogatory word. It's a degrading word. I would never refer to anybody as ignorant, but instead it's that the mind has confusion. It has misunderstanding. It has misperception. It doesn't understand true reality. It has this unknowing of true reality. And one of the things that the mind has an unknowing of true reality about is true love, and what is true love, and how to have love without attachment. So if you're falling in love with people and you're falling out of love with people, right now you have a misunderstanding of what love is. That's not actually love. And if people are doing that with you, if they're falling in love with you and out of love with you, that's not actually love. That's a misunderstanding of what love is. That's one of the misunderstandings or the lack of wisdom or the confusion that the mind has in the unenlightened state. And because of this lack of wisdom, an individual isn't practicing true love. So therefore, they're not going to be able to experience true love. In order to get to the point where you're experiencing true love coming back to you, you're going to need to understand the wisdom of what this is and how to practice it. Because as you're putting out more and more true love, this is what's going to come back to you in your relationships. So I'm going to help you to understand what true love is not, so that you'll understand the misunderstandings that the mind has. But then I'm going to help you to understand what true love actually is. But first, I'm going to need to meet you where you're at and where you're probably currently thinking what is actually love. Because once you understand what you're currently thinking is a misunderstanding, then I can help you to understand what is actually true love. So to help you understand this misunderstanding that the unenlightened mind typically has about true love is that if you can think back to what's called the Four Noble Truths. Some of you guys haven't probably learned this with me. Some of you guys have, where the Buddha teaches in four simple statements what is causing your discontent feelings, what's causing the anger and the sadness and the frustration. It's important to remind yourself of these Four Noble Truths because oftentimes people think love hurts and love is painful. If you're thinking love hurts and love is painful, you're not understanding what true love is. And as I mentioned, if you're falling in love and out of love with people, you're not understanding what love is yet. There's a misunderstanding in the mind. What's causing those painful feelings that you're experiencing is something called craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning, wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha has four simple statements that he explains to you the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward of how to completely fix these discontent feelings. So the first Noble Truth is explaining the problem. The problem that each unenlightened being experiences is that they have discontent feelings, that their mind's happy and excited and elated, but then they're sad and frustrated or irritated or annoyed. Then there's maybe boredom or loneliness or shyness. This is a problem in the mind because the mind is unstable, it's unsteady, it's shaken up, it's going up and down and up and down. Sure, there's periods of peace or calm or joy here and there, but it's only a matter of time before the unenlightened mind becomes irritated or annoyed or frustrated about something. This is the underlying problem that the Buddha discovered, that each unenlightened being's mind is shaken up. Then the cause of that is explained in the second noble truth. And this is something you can independently verify, because as I shared, none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. Is that the cause of these discontent feelings is craving, desire, attachment, longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. The mind craves permanence. When you live in an impermanent world, the mind craves for things to be permanent. So for example, if you bought a brand new car, and you were so happy and excited with that brand new car, and you drove it off the parking lot and you took it somewhere and you went to a store. Maybe you parked it outside and you went into the store. If you come out and you see a scratch on your car and you get angry or frustrated at that, it's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who actually scratched your car. That's not what's causing you to be frustrated. What's causing you to be frustrated or angry is that your mind's craving permanence. It's wanting this car to look permanently beautiful, when in reality, this car is not permanent. It is impermanent. It's going to change over time. So the paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. And if your mind craves permanence, when you experience these kinds of things, you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And every unenlightened being has this craving for permanence. Whereas if you're in a relationship and when you guys first get together, you're so happy and excited. Maybe this person's showing you affection. Maybe you're going out to dinner, to the movies. Maybe you're having great conversations, taking walks in the park. Maybe you're having intimate contact where you're having sex with each other. You might have all these pleasant feelings related to that. But then it's only a matter of time before the relationship starts to have anger and frustration. You guys are irritated at each other. And now over time, maybe you guys break up. And now maybe you're angry or sad or frustrated. You might be lonely or bored or missing this person. This isn't your love that's causing that. That's the mind holding on and craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, the relationship is impermanent. Ever since the beginning of the relationship, it was impermanent. But the mind in the unenlightened state doesn't understand that. It's holding on and wanting this relationship to be permanent. So when you get to the end of the relationship, the mind struggles with that. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, more likely than not, one of you would have died first. And even you can see this with relationships like grandma and grandpa, or mom or dad, or brothers or sisters. When people close to you are dying, you might grieve or feel sorrow or sad. This isn't your love or your care or your concern that's causing this. This is the craving for permanence, wanting grandma and grandpa to be permanent, wanting brothers and sisters and mom and dad. You're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just what the unenlightened mind does. It holds on and craves permanence, wanting things to be a certain way. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy, gets excited. It's getting its objects of its affection fulfilled. And now when you're not getting what you want, what you expect, what the mind's longing, yearning for, when you're not getting that, that's where the painful feelings come in. The anger, sadness, frustration, and others. You can see this in a wedding. If you've ever been to a wedding and you were crying or grieving, or people around you were upset and sorrowful, this is a person going off into the world with somebody else at the wedding, and now mom and dad or brothers and sisters can be grieving and sorrowful at the wedding because the mind's holding on. It's like, that's my brother, that's my sister, how dare you take her away, right? That's my child, you're taking her away from me. So the mind is confronted with this impermanence, and the mind's realizing, oh my goodness, this relationship is not permanent. And then it happens also when kids get dropped off at school. If you can remember back to when you got dropped off at school the first time, or maybe you got dropped off at university, your parents or you might have been grieving or sad. This isn't love that's causing that, because you're sending your child off to school. This is wonderful. They're getting an education, right? That's not love that's causing the sorrow and sadness, because if you have a genuine interest in seeing your child be well, sending them off to school, that would be wonderful, because now you're sending them off to school and they're getting an education. But what's causing the sorrow and sadness when the children are going to school for the first time is it's the parent's mind, and the child's mind is holding on and craving permanence. They, in the mind, thought that this was permanent. permanent. But in reality, we're going to go away from each other. We're going to come together. We're going to go away. We're going to come together. This is normal. This is what we do in day-to-day life because everything around us is constantly changing. But the unenlightened mind craves permanence. And that's what's causing these painful feelings, is the craving for permanence. That's what this second noble truth is helping you to be able to see. And you can independently verify this in your own life, because you can't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. Belief will not help you cultivate wisdom. You need to get to wisdom where you can see the truth for yourself. And if you're just believing me, then you don't know what's true or false. Or if you're believing other people, or you're believing what's currently in your own mind, you're not actually seeing the truth and cultivating wisdom. So take a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. It might have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes so you can see the truth for yourself. What was it that your mind was longing and yearning for? What were you craving? What were you wanting and expecting? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy or you would have been excited. But because you didn't get what you wanted, the mind was angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. Take a moment and look at it. And if you can't see it, let me know, because I will help you to be able to see this so that you can see that it's your own mind craving permanence. One time I had a student call me and they said, "Hey, David, I really need your help because you've been teaching that it's my own mind that's causing these feelings." Because that's what I'm teaching you, is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. It's not the outside world. They said, I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. And when I came home, my wife had this craft project all over the house and I got frustrated and angry. How did my mind cause this frustration and anger? Didn't she cause me to be angry? Because I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be angry? And I said, no, she didn't. It was your own mind that caused that. Your mind was craving permanence. You had an expectation that the house was going to look exactly the same way when you came home as it did when you went to work. And this is just change. That's all that's happened, is that things have just changed, that your house looked one way when you went to work and now it looks a different way when you came home. That's all that's happened here. And when your wife's done, she's going to put the craft project away and perhaps you even help her, right? So all that's happening is change. You can look at your life and all the situations where you've experienced change. Those were the most challenging times for you. Whether you're changing jobs, you were changing living locations, your relationships were changing, maybe your salary or your income was changing, right? As you experience change, the mind doesn't like that. That's one of the ways to say this. This is craving, desire, attachment is causing the mind to be discontent because it wants everything to be permanent when everything is impermanent. So the mind's craving permanence. But another way to say this is that the mind doesn't like change. It doesn't like impermanence. So when your relationships are changing and you're experiencing painful feelings, it's not your love that's causing that. It's the craving, the desire, the longing, the yearning, wanting things to be permanent when in reality they are impermanent. But you need to be able to see this for yourself. I'll give you some examples that aren't relationships so you can see it maybe more clearly. If you get really excited and happy when it's sunny outside, well, when it rains or some other weather event, you'll be frustrated or annoyed. You can see there's no other person involved here. The only thing that's happened was change. Or if you get really happy and excited when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated or angry. Again, the only thing that's happened is change because the mind's craving this permanence. It's wanting the bank account here, or it's wanting the sun to be permanent, when in reality, everything around you is constantly changing. So you need to be able to see that those painful feelings that you experience in your relationships isn't coming from your love. Once you understand what true love is, you'll see that that's not the case. But here you need to at least see what is causing the painful feelings. It's the craving, desire, attachment. It's the craving for permanence, wanting things to be permanent, when in reality, things are constantly changing around you. So if you get sad when your mom is sick or your dad is sick, it's not your love that's causing that. It's your mind craving them to be permanently healthy. They can't be permanently healthy because their body is impermanent. It's constantly changing. Just like you can't be permanently healthy. Your body's going to experience sickness. right? We're going to experience sickness, aging, and death. That's impermanence, right? But if your mind's shaken up during those periods of time when you're experiencing sickness, aging, and death, you'll think that it's your love, it's your care, it's your concern, but that doesn't cause painful feelings. Love actually doesn't cause painful feelings. It's the mind craving permanence. So there's a way to eliminate this, which is the third noble truth. You can eliminate these discontent feelings, these painful feelings that you're experiencing, by eliminating the craving for permanence. Understanding that the world around you is constantly changing, that it is impermanent, you can actually transform your mind and get to the point where you're no longer experiencing those painful feelings. You can see that if you think back to the relationship that you guys broke up and you were angry or sad or frustrated, at some point your mind let go. And you stopped craving this person to be in your life permanently. You're like, you know what? If he would like to be with someone else, so be it. You let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. Or you're like, you know what? If she would like to move to another part of the world, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. And you don't have that anger and frustration and the boredom and the loneliness, and you're not missing that person anymore. But if you still have those feelings based from any of the relationships that you had, it's not your love that was causing that. It was the mind having a craving for permanence. Okay? So what the mind's doing is it's misunderstanding attachment. It's misunderstanding that, thinking that that is actually the love, the craving, the desire, attaching your feelings to this other person. If this person's with me, I'll be happy. But if this person isn't with me, I will be sad and frustrated or angry. And this person can't be with you permanently. It's just not possible. More likely than not, even if you guys were together in your relationship, one of you would have died first, right? So you can't be with anybody permanently. It's just not possible. But the mind craves this permanence. So there's a solution to all of this, which is the fourth noble truth, which is training your mind through the eightfold path. That's the way that leads to the complete elimination of discontent feelings. And this is a core central teaching of the Buddha that you learn in all the foundational programs and classes and courses and retreats that we share, all the books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, everything that we share. We help you to be able to understand this eightfold path of how to gradually train your mind to let go. To let go. In fact, that meditation we just did, it's training your mind to let go. When you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, you let go and then you come back to the breath. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's actually to train your mind to let go, because the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. So when you understand that these painful feelings that you've been experiencing in your relationships isn't coming from the other person, it's coming from your own mind, then you can start to understand what true love is more and more. But we need to talk a bit more about what the mind's doing and thinking that is actually love. Because I'm sure you've been in relationships where you've been arguing with people and you've been adamantly trying to convince them that they have to stop doing what they're doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry. That's your mind craving for everything to be a certain way, craving permanence, wanting everybody to do things your way. Because the mind's ego in the unenlightened state, which thinks I'm right and everybody else is wrong, the mind wants everybody to do things my way. But not everybody's going to do things your way because of impermanence. There's only one person who does things your way, right? That's you. Nobody else does things that way. You're the only person in the world that does things your way 100% of the time. Other people are doing things different ways because of impermanence. But if your mind craves for everybody to do things your way, you can only be peaceful and joyful when people do it your way, right? But you're never going to be in a world where everyone does it your way, because there's 8 billion people in the world and you can't train them all to do things your way. So what the mind does in the unenlightened state is it meets somebody brand new. Let's just use kind of an example of someone who's maybe going to be a boyfriend or girlfriend or a life partner or something like this. You might meet somebody and you get to know them for a few weeks or a few months or something like this. And then you get to a certain point where you might say to them, I love you. And and they say, oh my goodness, I love you too. We're in love now. Everybody's in love. Wow, we're in love. And now you go through a period of time, the relationship evolves, and now all of a sudden you start getting angry and irritated and frustrated at each other. You start arguing and bickering and trying to put expectations on each other and trying to convince each other to do things a certain way. But then you get to a point where you're angry. You say, I don't love you anymore. We need to end our relationship. This isn't the love. This is actually craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. At the beginning of the relationship, it was wonderful. Man, it was so great at the beginning because you didn't have any cravings, desires, attachments. You just met this person. You didn't have any expectations for them. You didn't have anything you wanted from them. The only thing you were doing was getting to know them. That's it. You're just getting to know them, and they were getting to know you. That's why at the beginning, everything was so wonderful, because their expectations hadn't come in yet. But then as you guys were together for a period of time, this person was meeting your very minimal expectations, but then your expectations started to grow and grow and grow, wanting them to be a certain way. And then they started wanting you to be a certain way. And now you guys started putting expectations on each other. And you couldn't live up to their expectations permanently. And they couldn't live up to yours. And now you guys broke up. So at the beginning of the relationship, there weren't any expectations. So that's why it was going so well. There was no anger and frustration because you didn't have any expectations of them. But it wasn't until things got going deeper into the relationship, typically around the time that you have sex, that's where the expectations start coming in. Because you're getting such pleasant feelings, you want more of those pleasant feelings. You want more and more and more from this person. And now over time, the relationship becomes more and more discontent, more and more disgruntled. So what you need to be able to see is that it's craving, desire, attachment that's causing all of this. That as long as this person is doing things my way, I will say I love them, and I will function like I love them, and I will act like I love them, and I will say I love them. But when they stop doing things my way, I'm going to get angry and frustrated, and I don't love you anymore, and I'm not going to treat you like I love you. This isn't love. This is craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind's selfishness. This is the expectations that the mind has. So you're not really falling in love with people and out of love with people. You're falling into craving, desire, attachment, and you're falling out of craving, desire, attachment. That's what's happening. There's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call this conditional love. It's that, hey, I've got all these conditions in my mind. I have all these expectations. All these conditions have to be met. And if you meet all my conditions, I will say I love you, and I will act like I love you, and I will function like I love you, and I will even tell you that I love you. But when you stop meeting my conditions, when you stop meeting my expectations, all bets are off. I'm not going to treat you like I love you anymore. I'm not going to say I love you anymore because you're not doing what I want. You're not meeting my conditions, my expectations. So there's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call that conditional love. Right? And that's not going to lead to harmonious relationships because people aren't going to do things your way. And then when you start putting your expectations on people and trying to pressure people to do things your way, they're going to feel uncomfortable and they're not going to like it. There's going to be too much pressure in the relationship and you guys are going to want to get away from each other. And like I said, people are probably doing that to you too, where they're putting expectations on you and trying to control you and force you to do things their way. Because when people do things your way, you get happy. So the people around you might be trying to put expectations on you, trying to control you to do things their way because they get those conditioned happy feelings. And you get those happy feelings when people do things your way too. But if you understand that it's not possible for everyone to do things your way, and putting expectations on people and trying to control them and pressure them is only going to lead to problems in your relationship, you realize how unwise this is. And you realize that this might be what you've been doing your whole life. In fact, you might have grown up with parents who are doing this, right? And this is just because of the lack of wisdom that they have. They don't understand how to clean the mind, and they don't understand the wisdom of these teachings. So your parents might have been putting expectations on you, trying to pressure you or control you to do things a certain way. And because in your mind, you understand, like, my parents love me. Now, when you're getting these expectations put on you, you think that this is love. And then when you go out into the world and you interact with other people, you you might start putting expectations on other people, thinking that that's how to practice love, because that's what you experienced, that in your relationships with your parents, when they were putting expectations and trying to get you to do things a certain way, you thought that was their love. And they probably thought that was their love too. And now you've been taught and your mind's been conditioned to think a certain way that is love. And that's what you do, is go out into the world and put expectations on people. And that's how to love them. But this is just going to lead to broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship. You're not going to have satisfying, fulfilling, and sustaining relationships. So there's a better way of life here. You can cultivate the wisdom to realize that this isn't going to lead to harmonious relationships. Because if you could only love people who do things your way, then there's only one person that you can love in the world, because there's only one person who does things your way, and that's yourself. And you might even have difficulties doing that sometimes. You might have difficulties loving yourself because you probably put expectations on yourself, trying to pressure yourself to do certain things a certain way. So you can learn how to separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves. So that way you can love the person and disagree with the choices and decisions that they make. But you first need to understand what the mind's doing is putting these expectations on people and trying to control them and force them to do things your way. I used to do this, right? I used to go to my wife and I would say, hey, honey, there's this new movie coming out. You want to go see this new movie? And she would say, no, I'm not interested in going. I'm like, come on, you party pooper. Like, come on, let's go watch this movie. Come on, it's going to be so fun. No, I'm not interested. Come on, right? Putting pressure on her to go see this movie. And then eventually she might say, all right, I'll go see the movie, right? And then she comes and she's grumpy and irritable the whole time because she's not getting what she wants, which is to be at home and relax. And I'm not getting what I want, which is a wonderful time with this woman to go out and watch a movie. So both of us are discontent. This was in the past, right? But there's a better way of life here. There's a better way to do this. But you need to be able to see that this way of putting expectations on each other and trying to control each other doesn't work. Because like I mentioned, our parents will oftentimes put expectations on us. I'm sure that your parents have true love in there. They have what's called unconditional love for you. But it's tainted and it's polluted with these expectations and these cravings. And when you get those craving and expectations and wants out of the way, your unconditional love can shine through more and more. But as long as you have these cravings, these desires, these expectations, trying to control each other to do things a certain way, your true love can't shine through. So what true love is where you love someone unconditionally. You don't have any conditions that need to be met. You can love them as they are without putting expectations on them, where you can disagree with the choices and decisions that they make while still loving them as a person. Right? So when I was growing up as a child, I had a lot of expectations for my mom. I wanted her to be a certain way. And we always had difficulties and struggles in our relationships. Our mom, our parents, our brothers and sisters, they're never going to do things our way. Because they're their own unique person, they have their own unique experiences in life, and they're going to do things differently than you. This is normal. They're never going to do things your way. And the more pressure and the more expectations you put on them to do things your way, it's just going to make it difficult for you to have a harmonious relationship with them. So instead of having this conditional love, which of course doesn't exist, where it's you do things my way and I will love you and I will act as if I love you. Instead, you need to get to this unconditional love where you understand that people are going to do things differently than you. And that's okay. That's their choice and that's their decision. Your way is not the right way. Your way is the right way for you. But for other people, they have another way that they would like to do things. And that's impermanence. That's the impermanent nature of the world. Not everyone's going to do things exactly the same way. But if your mind goes around craving for everyone to do it a certain way and craving permanence, then when people do things differently than you, you will struggle in those relationships where you're trying to get them to do things your way. I'll give you another example. My wife, when she does things in the house, she doesn't usually consult with me. me and my son, we've learned that we just live in this house. This is my wife's house. It's really not our house. It's her house. So for me, if I would like to do something in the house, I would talk to my wife. I would say, hey, I would like to remodel this, or I'd like to do this. I'm going to have some people come give us a quote. Are you cool with that? Are you okay with this? That's what I would do, right? But my wife doesn't do it that way. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., there's drills and saws going off in our house, and she's in the middle of this construction project. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, oh, I'm going to hang this little thing from the ceiling, and I'm going to do some yoga, and I'm going to fly around on this little thing and do flying yoga. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, I'm going back to bed. See you later, right? That's just her way of doing things. Like, her way is just to do it, right? But if I crave and I expect for her to do it my way, then I'm going to be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. So I check with her before I do anything in the house, but that's not her way, right? So it's not to say my way's right and her way's wrong, or her way's right and my way's wrong. It's just two different ways to approach it. So you need to be able to get to the point where you understand that people are going to do things differently than you, and that's okay. And you just got to decide, hey, can I live with this person? Can I be okay with this? Or if you just have this list of things that you want everybody to do, then you're not going to be able to be happy and content and peaceful in all those situations. You need to get to the point where you understand people are going to make decisions differently than you. And you shouldn't base your love on whether or not they do things your way. Because what people think is that love is a feeling. Love actually isn't a feeling. Love is a mental quality. Feelings, they arise, they change, and they fade away. That's your happiness. It arises, it changes, and it fades away. Your conditional happiness does that. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience conditional happiness. You experience permanent happiness, where the mind is always happy and always joyful. But in the unenlightened state, you'll experience happiness that arises, changes, and fades away. Same thing with your anger and your sadness. It arises, it changes, and fades away. If you see love as something that arises, changes, and fades away, and you're seeing it as a feeling, that's not love. That's a conditional feeling of pleasant, painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. The mental quality of love is a permanent mental state. It's an unconditional mental state that is just always present into the mind. But if there are certain conditions that need to be met in order for you to love this person, that's not actually love. That's craving, desire, attachment. That's expectations. But what you would like to get to in all your relationships is where you have unconditional love, where you love people as they are, understanding that people are different and that they're not all going to meet your expectations. But as long as you have those expectations, you can't love everybody. You will like people who do things your way, but then you'll dislike people who don't do things your way. And this is where the mind gets stuck, because it thinks that that dislike is coming from the other person, where in reality it's coming from your own mind. So if you can understand more and more what true love, which is love without attachment, unconditional love, love without expectations, without putting expectations and trying to control the other person, you can get to harmonious relationships. Because now, if I'm interested in going to the movies with my wife, I go to my wife and I say, hey, me and your son would like to take you out on a date. She's like, oh yeah, what are you guys thinking? Well, we were interested in taking you to the movies. Would you like to go to the movies? And she might say, no, I'm not interested. Okay, we'll see you. We're headed out to the movies. Maybe you can go another time. Bye-bye. Right? The fact that she's not going with us to the movies doesn't mean she doesn't love us. It just means that she's interested in being at home. Right? Maybe she needs to take a rest. Maybe she's working on a certain project. She's writing a book, maybe, right? She has a certain book that she's working on. Maybe she's working on writing that book, right? And right now is not a good time for her to go to the movies. Okay, we'll go by herself. Our feelings aren't contingent based on whether mom is coming or not. When we have craving, desire, attachment, we can only be happy if mom goes to the movies with us. Our happiness is contingent on mom. That's what the unenlightened mind experiences. But when you get to the enlightened mental state, you can experience this peace and joy permanently, where your feelings aren't based on what other people are doing. Right now, your feelings are based on what other people are doing or not doing. But if you understand true love, you can get to the point, well, of course she would like to stay at home. That's her choice. She's not going to make the same choice as me. And my role here isn't to put expectations on her in order to get what I want. My goal here is to just say, hey, would you like to come with us to the movies? And if she says yes, great, we'll go to the movies. If she says no, okay, fine, we're going to still go to the movies. We'll see you when we get home, right? And either way, you can be peaceful, you can be joyful, whether she goes to the movies or not. But if you can only be happy when she goes to the movies, and you think that if she comes to the movie, she loves us, and if she doesn't come to the movie, she doesn't love us, this is actually not love. This is your mind's craving. This is your expectation, trying to control other people. And you would like to get rid of that. You would like to eliminate that so that now you can have harmonious relationships where you're not trying to control people or pressure people. My wife came to me a couple years ago. She said, hey, I'm going to go to America and work. My wife's Thai, right? She says, hey, I'm going to go to America and work. I need to go over there because I can't make enough money here. And I said, okay, when are you planning to leave? She said, in about 6 weeks or so. I was just checking in with you to make sure that you'll be okay with our son. You can take care of him. I was like, yeah, I can take care of him. No worries. How long are you planning on going for? She says, about 2 or 3 months. Then I said, okay, we'll see you when you get back, right? So we didn't miss her. We weren't trying to control her. We weren't sad that she was leaving because she's impermanent in our life. Sometimes she's going to be with us and sometimes she's going to be away. And that's okay. That's just impermanence. But if our mind is craving for her to be permanent, when she leaves, we would be sad. We would be angry. We'd be frustrated. We'd be missing her. Right? But that's not love. That's the craving, desire, attachment. That's the craving for permanence. But if you understand this person is impermanent in your life, they're going to be coming and going, and that's okay. And for her, she needs that money to be able to pay her bills and the things that she needs to take care of. Then if she's choosing to go to the USA and work, okay, that's her choice. And now we can enjoy when she's with us and she's at home. We can enjoy that. We have fun when she's around. And when she's away, we can enjoy that too, right? But if you can only have peace and joy and happiness when you're with somebody, then that means your happiness is not permanent. Your mind is attached. And then when they leave, you're going to be sad and maybe contributing your painful feelings to that person. Right? So it's not other people that are causing these painful feelings for you. It's your craving for permanence. And you can get liberated from that. You can get free from that by not craving permanence. It's the Eightfold Path, the core central teaching of the Buddha, that's going to train your mind how to do that. But you also need to understand true love, where you can have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. You can have active goodwill towards others without any conditions needing to be met. That you can just love all beings as they are. So this is why I can come here each day and teach you guys these teachings, because I love you. I love you. I don't want anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. I love you as you are, right? Understanding that you make decisions differently than me, and that's okay. Right? But I can love you as you are. I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. I have active goodwill towards you. I don't want anything or expect anything from you. There's no conditions that have to be met. As you see when you come in here, there's no rules. There's no expectations. Nobody told you to do this and do that, and you have to do it this way and you have to do it that way. No, just make yourself comfortable. Do whatever you would like to do. No expectations from anybody, because I love you as you are. Right? And then if you're asking questions and you want to know more and you want to understand how to get to this enlightened mental state, then there's help and guidance here for you without any condition needing to be met. So I didn't fall in love with you, so I can't fall out of love with you. But when you fall in love with people, that means there's certain conditions met. And then when those conditions aren't met, you're going to fall out of love with people. But if you love people unconditionally, you don't fall in love and out of love with people. So there's nothing you did to earn my love. So there's nothing you can do for me to stop loving you. I don't suggest you do this, but if you went out and murdered someone today and you called me from prison and said, hey, David, I've murdered someone. I need to see you. Can you come see me? Sure, I will come see you. Right? I will come help you. Whatever it is that you need from me, I will come help you. Because my love is unconditional. You don't have to meet any conditions in order for there to be love in the mind. right? So I'm going to pause here and see what questions you guys might have. And then we'll go on and talk a little bit more about some of these other things. If you would like to ask questions, we have microphones here in the white bowl. All you need to do is get a microphone, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and you can hold it up to your chin and ask any questions you like. And we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, the people online won't be able to hear you. And you can keep these microphones with you at your seat, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. You can just share the microphone. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that would be helpful so that we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then if there's anyone online who would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom, unmute your microphone, and ask any questions that way. So are there any questions here at the temple, or anybody online would like to ask a question? A very passive way? You said passive? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Whenever you're thinking like this, it's because you're not understanding fully yet. Okay. So it's helpful to ask questions. Do you have a question that you would like to ask? Could you use the mic? That way the people online can hear you. Okay. Yeah, so whenever we're teaching a certain topic, it's very rare that someone's going to understand it right away, because the mind in the unenlightened state, it lacks wisdom. That's why you experience anger and sadness and frustration and all these discontent feelings, because the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. So it's helpful to ask questions, because then you can understand what it is that you're not understanding, right? So what you're thinking right now isn't true. So if my wife, let's just say, we'll use this one. My wife, in my opinion, isn't as tidy with the way she likes to keep the house as I was when I grew up, right? When I grew up, you would keep things really clean, really neat, right? She grew up in Thailand. She lived life a very different way. So in us coming together as a couple, there was some times where we needed to talk about how we're going to do things. And she's become a little bit more tidy, and I've become more comfortable with the fact that things aren't going to be exactly the way that I grew up with them. Now, at this age, I have my room and she has her room. In the past, we used to stay in the same room together. But now she has her room in the way she likes it. I have my room in the way I like it. And then the common part of the house, it's not as neat as I would like it, but it's also not as untidy as she's used to keeping it. We've had to meet in the middle with that, right? So it's not about just never talking to people and never having conversation with people about how we could do things in a better way. It's about understanding that if you have expectations of someone and you want someone to be a certain way and they're not that way, you're going to get angry and frustrated because they're not doing it your way. And now that anger and frustration is going to come out through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And now you're going to damage your relationships. So I'll give you another example. Let's just say my wife says to me, "Hey, David, I'm going to bed. Can you take out the trash?" She doesn't do this anymore, but let's just say she did. She says, "Hey, can you take out the trash?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll take out the trash." And now let's just say she goes to bed with the expectation, the desire that I'm going to take out the trash. Well, now let's just say I'm watching TV or I'm working online and I forget to take out the trash and I go to sleep. And now let's just say she wakes up before me and she sees that the trash hasn't been taken out. Well, she has an expectation. If she has a desire that the trash is taken out, she'll get angry when she sees that the trash hasn't been taken out because she's craving that permanence. And now when she sees me, she'll be bitter and harsh and hostile. And that doesn't do anything to improve the relationship. Doesn't do anything to create harmony in the relationship because her mind is just wanting it her way. Right? Where instead, she could either take it out herself. If she sees me in the morning, she could say, "Hey, do you mind taking out the trash? Or did something happen? Did you forget to take out the trash?" We can talk about it in a polite, kind, friendly, respectful way. We can have a discussion. But if you have a craving, an expectation, a desire, and it has to be your way, then you can only be happy when it's done your way. And that's going to get in the way of having a harmonious relationship because you can't have discussions to solve whatever challenge it is that you're facing because this person wants wants it their way, this person wants it their way, and now everybody's dug into the sand and there's no meeting in the middle. So it's not a passive way. It's not like just, all right, whatever happens, happens, I'm just going to turn away from it. It's understanding that if you have an expectation in your mind, people can't meet your expectation all the time. And now you will be angry and frustrated, and it will cause difficulties in your own mind. But now the mind's going to attribute that to somebody else and now be bitter, harsh, and hostile. So using the other example that you came up with, like stealing, somebody steals something from you. Right? And you said, like, what am I supposed to do? Kind of love this person? Well, remember what your love is you have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. You have active goodwill towards the person, where you can disagree with their choices and decisions. You can disagree with the stealing because you wouldn't steal from someone. So this person is stolen from you. Yeah, I disagree with that choice and decision, but I can still love the person, meaning have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. It's not like, oh, wow, somebody stole from me, so I'm going to do nothing. That's not what I'm teaching here. What I'm sharing is not allowing your mind to have an expectation that everyone will do it your way, because then when someone does steal from you, you'll be angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And now you'll be so angry, you'll make unwise decisions that are going to produce unwholesome results. Instead, it's like, this person's stolen from me. What should I do? Anger shouldn't be part of the equation, because anger isn't going to help anything. It's a matter of staying calm and peaceful and saying, what should I do? Should I call the police? Should I talk to them? Should I stop being friends with this person? Because if they're going to regularly steal with me, it's not wise for me to be around this person, right? So if you can only love people who do things your way, then you can only love yourself, because not everyone's going to do it your way. And it doesn't mean that this person's done something wise to steal from you. They've obviously done something unwise, but it's when you expect them to do it your way that you'll have anger and frustration that they haven't done it your way. But you still maintain the ability to make decisions about whether or not you would be involved in the relationship with this person, or whether or not you should involve even the police, because that's still a genuine interest in seeing this person be well, because they need to experience the consequences of their decisions. So me calling the police could be out of love and out of kindness. But if I'm angry and hostile and bitter and harsh when I'm doing that, now the police are having to deal with my anger, and they're not going to be interested in dealing with the situation, because now my hostility and bitterness venting towards the police is getting in the way of them understanding what's truly happening. So this love is not to be passive or anything like that. And it's important to understand what I'm talking about with craving, desire, attachment. It's where the mind's longing, yearning for something, chasing after the objects of your affection. And you can only be happy when you get what you want. And when you don't get what you want, the mind is sad or angry or frustrated. Oftentimes, the unenlightened mind can see that pretty clearly when we start talking about it. But when someone thinks about eliminating craving, desire, attachment, they think that their mind swings over here to the other side, where it's dull and lethargic and unmotivated and lazy. You can probably see that really clear too. But neither of those two sides is what I'm teaching you to accomplish. What I'm teaching you to be able to do is come to the middle, where you can gradually pursue things as a goal, objective, or interest with wise decision making, with enthusiasm, with ambition. But the mind doesn't know how to do that in the unenlightened state, and it has difficulties to see it, because the mind, with its lack of wisdom and lack of training, it sees the chasing and it sees the dull, lethargic, complacent condition, but it can't see this middle way. And that's what a Buddha is doing for you, is help you to be able to see that middle way and then guide you on how to attain it through training the mind. Sound better? Yeah, you understand now, right? Okay. Question?
Yeah, I do have a question. Hey, David.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I have two confusions. First of all, you take the example of the partnership, like true love in a partnership, and I do believe when you meet someone, or you made a decision to stay in a partnership, and at the beginning of whatever happened, you are attracted to certain like qualities, and these qualities to me are the conditions that you stay together in the partnership. Mm-hmm. And with the conditions, so I think there comes the expectation. Mm-hmm. So then the true love, unconditional love, for me, there's the little conflict with the way that you stay together at the beginning. And second confusion I have is like I believe that like you stay connected with someone and make decision to be together and stay in a partnership, you already have certain attachment. And this attachment, I just can't like relate to like unconditional love or true love without any attachment that you put in the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So getting together with a life partner, potential life partner, there's going to be attachment at the beginning of the relationship. An enlightened being who has freed their mind and liberated, they're not going to say, I'd like to have a wife now, or I'd like to have a boyfriend or girlfriend now. An enlightened being, their mind is already peaceful, always completely content and joyful, that if they're going to have a relationship with a life partner, they would have already done that on their way to enlightenment. Or if they're going to be single, they would just be single and get to enlightenment that way. So if you're looking for a partner and you're looking to come together with a partner, there is going to be craving, desire, attachment at the beginning of the relationship. Maybe towards someone's appearance or their financial status or their social status or how they treat you and all these different kinds of things. Those are the cravings, desires, attachments that brought you together initially. But now over time, if you understand what the mind's doing, you would like to minimize these cravings, desires, attachments, and then ultimately as part of the relationship, completely eliminate the cravings, desires, attachments. So when me and my wife first came together, we had craving, desire, attachment, right? And for 11 years, our mind was like that. But then eventually we understood what was happening and we both extinguished those, because early on we would argue, we'd be upset with each other, we'd be frustrated, just like every other life partnership. But then once we transcended all of that, now we don't argue, we have discussions, right? And it's been that way for 5 or 6 years or so, where before we would fight till death to try to prove who was right and who was wrong. And I wanted it my way and she wanted it her way. And we would fight and fight and fight. But now we sit down and have discussions and we talk about things. That's where it's not passive, right? We have discussions where before our cravings, desires, attachments wouldn't allow us to have a discussion because we were arguing and both of us wanted it our way. So yes, there's going to be craving, desire, attachment at the beginning of a relationship, but you can minimize that throughout your relationship and ultimately you can eliminate it 100%. As long as there's a sexual relationship, which oftentimes there is when people are getting together, there's going to be craving, desire, attachment in the relationship. And if you're having sex, wow, you feel really great. But if you're not, then you're going to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So ultimately, by the time you transcend 100% of the cravings, desires, attachments in a relationship, you ultimately get to a point where you're not even having sex any longer, but you are enjoying the relationship for so many other reasons. Sometimes people think that that's the main focal point of a relationship, and that determines whether we love each other or not. In fact, people even call it, we're making love. That's not what you're doing when you're having sex. You're actually just stimulating each other's senses in the physical body in order to get the mind to this heightened, pleasant feelings. But then when you're not doing that, the mind is agitated or frustrated. So me and my wife, obviously, we had a sexual relationship for a period of time. We enjoyed that. But eventually you get to the point where it's like, yeah, been there, done that enough times. And now our relationship is so much more fulfilling, so much more satisfying, so much more peaceful and joyful than it ever was. We're enjoying our relationship way more than we ever did when we were involved in sexual activity. So sometimes what people do is they get up to this second stage of enlightenment and work all the way up to that point and even have a life partner and have a relationship and sexual contact. And then depending on your age and where you are in your relationship, you might hang out there for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however long they like. And then at some point, you're going to see that this peace and joy is actually much more satisfying than the temporary pleasure that you get through this craving, desire, attachment to sex. And then you'll start appreciating that a lot more and you'll head more and more closely to that. But yeah, there's going to be craving, desire, attachment. You can't eliminate that if you're just coming together. That's the whole reason why you're coming together. But now once you are together, you grow as a couple and then you can transcend the craving, desire, attachment. There's essentially 3 things that you need in getting together with a life partner. You need a life partner who understands that they are not perfect. And that you need these things too. You need to understand that you are not perfect. You are a work in progress. You are an imperfect being. Oftentimes people try to teach the opposite of this. They try to teach you that you're born perfect and, everything's fine with you. If you have that mindset, you're not going to do the work that you need to improve. So you need to be able to recognize, and your partner needs to be able to recognize, that you guys are two imperfect beings. The second thing that you need is you need a partner, and you need yourself to understand that you aren't causing each other's feelings. Your partner needs to understand that they are causing their own anger. They are causing their own discontent feelings, their own frustration or agitation or annoyance. You and your partner need to not blame each other for the feelings that you're experiencing. You need to understand that any feelings that you have, it's coming from you. It's not coming from your partner. So that's the second thing you need. And the third thing you need in order to have a successful relationship with a partner is you need someone who's willing to get help for the imperfections that they have. They're going to need to be willing to do the work and get the help that they need to improve and grow. If you have these three things, you guys can create a wonderful relationship with each other, where you have someone who understands that they are imperfect. They're not blaming you for the feelings that they're experiencing. And then they are willing to do the work to improve and become a better and better human being. If you don't have these things, it's going to be a turbulent relationship because they think they're perfect. They're blaming you for the feelings that they're experiencing, and they're unwilling to do work and get the help that they need to improve. And if you have those three things, the relationship's never going to improve. So if you can find a partner that has these three things, and you also practice these three things, now you guys can build a wonderful life together, realizing that you're imperfect, not blaming each other for your feelings, and then being willing to do work to improve and grow as you go forward in life together. And your current partner and you may not have these right now, but you can cultivate these and you can develop these. Initially, you got together with craving, desire, attachment. That's what me and my wife have when we got together. We didn't have these three things initially when we first got together, but then as we grew and we understood what was important, then we had these three things, and then we were able to really improve because we're focused on our own mind. We're not blaming each other for the things that we experience. As long as you're blaming other people for what you're experiencing, you'll never be able to cultivate the wisdom to improve. So you need to be able to maintain the responsibility to do the work and improvement within your own mind. Mm-hmm. Do you have more question? Yeah. Could you use the mic? That way the people online can hear you. Monogamy, having having one partner. This isn't. Yeah. So this is just one piece that I'm teaching you here about what is love, right? What you've missed, because remember, this is chapter 15. What you've missed is all the other teachings. That part of that is the Buddha is teaching you that it's wise to just have one partner at a time. Because if you have multiple partners, you're going to experience sexually transmitted diseases. You're going to experience potentially getting beat up or murdered because people are going to be jealous. You're going to have a loss of material possessions. So it's unwise to have a sexual relationship with multiple people at a time because you're going to experience unwholesome karma or unwholesome results because of the unwise decision to choose to have sex with multiple people. So having a relationship that is monogamous doesn't have to be a craving, where if you have a longing, yearning, and a craving for a monogamous relationship, when someone goes out and has sex with someone else, sure, you'll get angry and frustrated. But that's the whole reason why the Buddha teaches you that it's unwise to do that. Instead, you can understand if this person goes out and have sex with somebody, okay, now you need to decide based on your wise decision making, and you realize how unwise that is to be in a relationship with that. What are we going to do about this? Are we going to sit down and talk? Is this a one-time situation where we can talk through this and we can overcome this challenge and realize that we need to be loyal and committed to each other? Or there's no way I can accept this. I need to move on to another person because I don't have the trust and confidence that this person's going to be loyal and committed in the relationship. What do we need to do here? And there's not just one right answer, because for some people, they might just choose to split right away and they're done with the relationship. They're never going to go back. But other people people, they might be able to talk through this, realizing that it's a one-time situation that they really apologize for. They're going to aim to do better. They're going to improve. And now there needs to be more trust built up, and then get to the point where now we have a loyal, loving, committed relationship. And that's where the discussion can take place. But if there's a craving, there's an expectation, there's a longing, yearning, and there's anger and hostility and bitterness, it's really hard to have that type of conversation. So that's where training your mind in the entire path is going to be helpful. What I'm sharing with you here is just a certain amount of information. And then as you guys ask questions, we go deeper down into it. I don't share everything in just one talk, but there's more for you to learn beyond just what I'm sharing here. Mm-hmm. Joe, you have a question?
Mr. David, can you elaborate on why love oneself is first?
I just put them in this order because if you don't love yourself, it's very hard to love others. If you don't know how to have love towards yourself, you'll find it very difficult to have love for others. And you might have experienced that in your life where, if you're not loving this being, you'll find it very challenging to love others. And now if you're not able to love this being in others, then you'll experience difficulties and struggles in your relationships. So learning how to love yourself is an important part of learning true love. Because one of the things that we do is we put expectations on ourselves in the unenlightened state, not just expectations on others and trying to control others, but an individual put expectations on themselves and pressure themselves to do things a certain way. And if you get things your way, you'll be happy and excited. But if you don't meet your expectations, you'll feel guilty or shameful or some other discontent feeling. And you're just staying stuck in this trap where if you put expectations on yourself, you can only be happy when you get what you want. But then what people think is, well, what am I supposed to do? Be over here and just go through life and not care about what's going on? No, that's not what you would like to do either. You'd like to come to the middle where you have certain goals and objectives that you're working towards, but you're not basing your feelings on whether you accomplish that thing or not. You just make wise decisions gradually working towards that goal or objective. But as soon as you put expectations on yourself, you're not practicing true love with yourself at that point. So you need to be able to come to the middle where you gradually pursue goals and objectives through wise decision making without putting expectations on yourself. Realizing sometimes you're going to meet your goals and sometimes you're not. And when you meet your goals, okay, great, wonderful, I've met my goals. But when I'm not meeting the goals, you look at it and you say, okay, I'm 80% of the way there. What should I do here? Should I extend my timeline and give myself more time to meet this goal? Should I put more resources towards this to be able to allow me to accomplish my goal? Or, 80%, you know what? I'm just fine with 80%. I don't really need to go any further. And now you can maintain your peace and your joy regardless. But just like craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love. That's what I was talking about, conditional love. Craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love, where it's really not actually love. The craving, desire, attachment oftentimes is masquerading as a goal too. Someone might say, I have a goal. And now if I accomplish my goal, I'm happy. And if I don't accomplish my goal, I'm angry or frustrated. That's actually not a true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal. A true goal, you can be happy whether you accomplish it or not. You're not basing your inner feelings on whether you accomplish that thing or not. And this comes through training the mind. The mind needs to be trained to be able to do this, because otherwise these cravings, desires, attachments will continue to not only masquerade as love, but masquerade as a goal too. Yes, sir.
True love sounds like a lot of acceptance, but I was going to ask you, there'd be a point where maybe you don't accept someone's choices or actions if they're intentionally hurtful, or they don't make any attempt to improve their choices.
Yeah, there's no harm in choosing to step away from a relationship. Like, you can learn to love someone from afar, but it's when you base your feelings on that you run into problems. So I'll give you another example. When I was growing up, me and my sister always had lots of problems growing up, right? But there was a certain point in our relationship where I realized she was being very judgmental. She was trying to control me. She was trying to put expectations on me, even down to the point of who I should marry and who I shouldn't marry, trying to tell me what I should or shouldn't be doing in terms of my personal relationships. And when it got to this point, I said to her, as I said, I'm going to marry the person that I would like to marry, and whether the family accepts that or not is up to them. I need to marry the person that I think is best for me. And she said, well, aren't you going to want us to accept your wife? And I said, no, I said, if you guys accept her, it's up to you. I said, for me, this is the person that I would like to marry. And if you guys accept her or not, it's up to you. I'm going to, marry who I think is best. And she's like, I don't think that's true. You're going to want to be in a relationship with us. And I said, okay, up to you. And we didn't talk again for about 10 years after that. And I still loved her. Right? I still had a genuine interest in seeing her be well. I still had active goodwill towards her, but I understood that we couldn't be in a relationship at that point because she kept judging me. She kept putting expectations on me and trying to control me. And I needed to step back from this relationship, and it helped her mind and it helped my mind too. So I didn't just accept that she was putting expectations and judgment on me. I chose to step away from the relationship, but I could still love her because I didn't have conditions that she needed to meet. So therefore, 10 years later, when we started talking again, then we just, were able to now have a better relationship where we don't put expectations on each other. My sister no longer puts expectations on me and judges me and tries to control me. And now we have a very wonderful and peaceful relationship. But we couldn't do that as long as we were together early on. So we needed to step away from the relationship. So I didn't accept the fact that she was being judgmental and putting expectations on me. Instead, I realized that this is unwise. It's an unhealthy relationship where someone's putting expectations on you, and I chose to step away from the relationship, but still maintaining my love, realizing that I still had a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. So I was loving her from afar. I don't have to be in a relationship with someone in order to love them. I can love this person while not even spending time with them, because all love is a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. It's a mental state. It's not the actions. Your actions are going to emanate from your love, but the actions themselves isn't the love. So another example, when I first met my wife, she wasn't employed and she moved in with me. We weren't married at the time, of course, and she used to cook, she used to clean, she used to do laundry, she used to do all these things. I would come home, I'd have like 5 entrees on the table waiting for me. There wasn't even enough space on the table for a plate to actually eat. She had so much food on the table. And wow, this was wonderful, right? And this went on for a pretty long time because I was a business owner at the time, and I would come home and there'd be all this food and laundry would be done, things would be clean. Great. Well, over time, things changed. If I thought that the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry was her love, then when all that changed, I would think she doesn't love me anymore. But now she's a mother. She's got her own business. She travels for work, as you guys heard. She doesn't have time to cook and clean and do laundry for me. I need to do all those things for myself now. But if I thought that that was her love, then when she stopped doing those things, then I would think she doesn't love me anymore. So it's not the actions that is the love, but those actions come from love, but those actions are going to change over time. It's the same thing as if I thought having sex was the love. When we stopped having sex, I would think she doesn't love me anymore, where in reality, that's not the case. So the mental state of having a genuine interest in seeing this person be well means you have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well, but the actions that you choose to do is going to be different from situation to situation. So you heard different situations there that helps you to be able to see that it's not just about accepting, it's about understanding what it is that you need in this particular situation for this particular relationship. And with my sister, we needed to separate for a while in order to train our mind to let go and not put expectations and be judgmental of each other. And then when we come back together, we can function better in the relationship.
How do you deal with having the love for someone and caring about them, but then also the desire to be with them, even if maybe that desire isn't right? So your desire to be with your sister, but you can't really do that because she's judging you or the relationship isn't working.
That's where you get rid of the desire, the longing and the yearning, and basing your feelings on whether or not you're with this person. But you're also not over here where I could care less either. I was interested in spending time with my sister, and I enjoy having a wonderful relationship with my sister, but I understood at that particular time in our relationship, it wasn't healthy for us to be together. So that's whereas if you do have a desire, in my situation, in this example, if I had a desire to be with my sister, the fact that we weren't together, I would be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. But because I didn't have that desire, I didn't have the longing, yearning. That's the difference. It's not the longing, yearning. That's what you're looking to get rid of. What I had was an interest to be with her. and I didn't base my feelings on whether I was with her or not. So you need to be able to see this desire that we're talking about. It's the longing, the yearning, and basing your feelings on whether you get it or not. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's just say you're walking through the mall and you see a brand new pair of shoes in the window, and you're like, oh, I really want those shoes. You have a desire for those shoes. Well, now if you go in the store and they have your size, you'll be really happy. But if you go in the store and they don't have your size and they're out of stock, you'll be angry and frustrated or irritated or annoyed because you have a desire for these shoes. But if you just have an interest, you're like, these are some really nice shoes. I could use those shoes. Let me go in the store and see if they have my size. Understanding impermanence, that they may or may not have your shoes. And now you go in and they're like, yeah, we don't have your size. Oh, okay, no worries. Now you might say, do you have another store somewhere? Is there a stock somewhere else? Or are you guys going to get a replenishment of that inventory? Now you can be peaceful and joyful as you talk with this person. But if you can only be happy when you get your desires met, you're not going to always get your desires met. So that's where you need to train your mind to eliminate this longing, yearning, and basing your feelings on whether you get this thing or not. And that's where you can be peaceful and joyful. So by the time me and my sister decided, or at least I decided to no longer be in a relationship with her, I no longer had the longing, yearning to be in a relationship with her. But I also wasn't over here where I could care less. I was interested in seeing good things happen for my sister. It's just that I needed to come to the middle where I had an interest to be with her, but realizing that now wasn't the best time to do that because we had too much craving, desire, attachment in the relationship. And we needed to separate in order to train the mind to let it go. Okay, so I don't see any other questions anywhere. So we were already just talking about loving oneself, right? We need to get to the point where you're not putting expectations on yourself and trying to control yourself and force yourself to be a certain way, because you're not going to be able to meet your expectations permanently. You need to come to the middle where you gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests, not expecting and longing, yearning to meet a certain threshold, but instead gradually work towards your goals, objectives, or interests. I have a goal to share these teachings with countless people and see countless people get to enlightenment, but I'm gradually working towards that each day. Whereas if I was longing, yearning for it, when there's people in the class, I'd be happy. And when there's not anybody here to learn, there's just one or two people here to learn, I'd be sad and frustrated, right? So I'm working towards this goal, realizing impermanence, that people are going to come and go. That's normal, right? It's not going to be everybody that comes is going to stay, right? There's going to be people coming and going. So you can work towards a goal without basing your feelings on it. So you can do that with each one of your goals, whether it's a certain career or a certain degree or a certain house or whatever it is that you're working towards. You can just gradually work towards it without actually forming your feelings based on whether you accomplish that or not. Then the same thing with your parents and your caregivers. Oftentimes we have expectations of them, wanting them to be a certain way. You might feel like your parents aren't doing things your way and you didn't have the parents that you wanted to have. I've never met any child who's ever agreed with 100% of what their parents have done. Is there anybody here that has agreed 100% with every single thing that their parents have ever done? No? Okay, see, they're never going to meet your expectations, never, right? So if we can only love them if they do things our way, then we can't love them unconditionally, that we have certain expectations that we want them to do. And now our parents are not going to function that way. They have a certain wisdom or a certain lack of wisdom, and now they're going to do things their way. But if your expectations are here and they're functioning down here, you're always going to be disgruntled in these relationships with your parents because they're not doing things your way. So could someone turn off their mic? If you guys could check your mics, I think that there's some mics on. So if your parents, if you have expectations here and your parents are here, you'll always be disgruntled in those relationships. But if you get rid of your expectations and realize that your parents are doing whatever they think is best based on the wisdom that they have or the lack of wisdom that they have, then they're going to do whatever they think is best, and you can just love them as they are. It doesn't mean that you accept what they're doing. It doesn't mean that you agree with what they're they're doing. It just means that you understand that putting expectations on them and forcing them and controlling them to do things a certain way isn't what's going to lead to your happiness, because they will never meet your expectations. Because even if you have expectations here, and let's just say your parents work really, 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 really hard and they get to your expectations and what you want, do you know what's going to happen to your expectations? Yeah, you're going to do that. And now they're not meeting your expectations again. And now you're trying to force and control them to do what you want. And now they're going to work really, 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 really hard. Let's just say they get to your expectations. What's going to happen to your expectations? It's going to go up again, right? So you're always going to be in this constant state of wanting something from them that they're not doing for you. And now you're never going to be happy. So the Buddha teaches us something. There's a teaching here from the Buddha that I'll read to you that'll help you to be able to understand a better way to live your life with your parents. This is a teaching called repaying one's mother and father. Monks, there are two persons that cannot easily be repaid. What two? One's mother and father. Even if one should carry about one's mother on one shoulder and one's father on the other, and while doing so, should have a lifespan of 100 years, live for 100 years, and if one should attend to them by anointing them with balms, by massaging them, bathing them, rubbing their limbs, and they even void their urine and excrement there, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. Even if one were to establish one's parents as supreme lords and rulers over the great earth, abounding in the 7 treasures, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. For what reason? Parents are of great help to their children. They bring them up, feed them, and show them the world. So I'm going to pause here for a second. So what the Buddha is saying is if you literally carried your mom on one shoulder and your dad on another shoulder, and you lived for 100 years, and you massaged them and bathed them and cleaned up their urine and excrement, you haven't done enough for your parents yet. And even if you established your parents as the supreme lords and rulers over the entire earth and gave them all this kind of material possessions and treasures, you still haven't done enough for them. Well, why? Because they bring you up, they show you the world, right? Essentially what he's saying is they've helped you to be able to get into this human life. And now in this human life, you have the best opportunity ever, which is to be able to get to enlightenment. So if you did all of these things, you still haven't done enough for your parents, because this debt of gratitude that the Buddha is talking about is that, hey, your parents, even if you disagreed with everything your parents ever done, they still gave birth to you. They still fed you. They still clothed you. They still made sure you got a certain education. And if it wasn't your parents, it was your caregivers, like maybe adopted parents or grandparents or something like this. Not everybody grows up with their mom and dad. Some people grow up with other people. So whoever your caregivers were that helped you grow up, they surely didn't do things your way. They didn't meet your expectations, but they helped you to get into this life that now you're an adult and you have the best opportunity ever, which is to be able to learn, grow, and develop, and now get to this enlightened mental state, right? So now the Buddha says, okay, you haven't done enough for them doing all these things, right? So now he's going to teach you what would be wise to do for your parents where you see that they're having difficulties and struggles. So the Buddha says, but monks, if when one's parents lack confidence, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in confidence. If when one's parents are unwholesome, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in virtuous behavior or moral conduct. If when one's parents are selfish, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in generosity. If when one's parents are unwise, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in wisdom. In such a way, one has done enough for one's parents, repaid them, and done more than enough for them. Okay, so what he's saying is that giving your parents all these material possessions, that's not really the most beneficial thing that you could ever do for your parents. massaging them, bathing them, cleaning up their urine. Sure, you might do some of those things as they age or what have you. But the thing that's really going to benefit your parents and really help them is helping them to gain confidence. What he means by gaining confidence is confidence in the teachings of the Buddha. Because as you learn and practice these teachings, you'll see that they lead exactly where he said they do. They lead to this enlightened mental state, because you'll see your mind gradually moving closer and closer to this peace and joy that he talks about. You'll gain confidence in him, and then there's a way to help your parents to gain confidence. So for example, when I have a family member who's struggling with a certain thing, and I see they're struggling and they're telling me about this, I'll say, the Buddha has a really wonderful teaching that would help you in this situation. And oftentimes they don't say anything at all, and we're just off to the next topic, right? I've tried to settle and establish them in confidence. But in some situations, they might say, oh yeah, what is that teaching? And now I share it with them, right? Because the last thing you're interested in doing is pushing a teaching on them. The last thing you're interested in doing is giving them unsolicited guidance and pressuring them or forcing them or putting expectations on them. But I kind of say this little phrase to invite them to ask questions. That thing you're struggling with, the Buddha taught something really insightful that would help you here. And then if they're like, oh yeah, what is that? Oh, now there's an open door for me to share. But if they don't open the door, I'm not going to just slam through the door. I'm not going to barge through the door and start dumping teachings on them. So the way you establish someone in confidence is you invite them to be able to get more information about the teachings of the Buddha, and now that they gain more and more confidence in the teachings. The Buddha says, if one is unwholesome, one encourages and settles them in virtuous behavior or moral conduct. I'll give you an example of this. Growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and my grandparents grew up in a very different time than me. They grew up in the 1920s. They were born in the 1920s. They grew up at a time in the USA where people with one color of skin ate one place and another people ate another place, and there's different water fountains for different people, and their mind was conditioned to think this way. So sometimes when I was spending time with them, I would hear them say things that someone might say was racist. And I would say, Grandma, why do you think that way? Those people might have a different color of skin than you, but they're just like you and I, right? And I would help them to be able to see these kinds of things. And over time, they completely change. They completely transform, especially when their grandson and their granddaughter were having interracial relationships and having children and grandchildren that were of different races and ethnicities. Sure, they changed their mind, right? But they needed that help because they were saying things and doing things that were unwholesome, and they needed to be able to see this better way of doing things. If my mom was lying or I saw something that she was doing, I would talk to her and I would try to help her to be able to see this better way of life, right? So when you see your parents doing things that are unwholesome, you can help them, but you would like to do that without forcing them or controlling them or putting expectations on them. You just talk to them and help them to be able to see a better way of life. The Buddha says when your parents are selfish, you help them establish in generosity, because selfishness is where you're holding on to things and you're not willing to share with other people. That's what craving, desire, attachment will do in your mind, is it'll make you selfish, where you're holding on to things very tightly and you'll be unwilling to share with other people. So by practicing generosity, it helps your mind to let go. Not only does meditation do that, but practicing generosity trains your mind to let go. And that's ultimately what's going to eliminate the anger and the sadness and frustration and all these other feelings. So helping someone learn how to not be selfish and be joyful in giving and sharing with others, this is going to help them to get some more peace and joy. So where you see your family or your parents being selfish, you could recommend to them to maybe be generous in certain situations. But remember, you're recommending, you're suggesting. You're not forcing or controlling or putting expectations on them. Then the last one, the Buddha says when you see that your parents are unwise, you help establish them in wisdom, right? Because as you learn more and more of these teachings, you're going to know what's wise and what's unwise. Right now, if you haven't studied deeply, you don't necessarily know that, and I don't suggest you go out and do this. But as you actually learn and grow and develop on the path, and you have more and more wisdom about what's wise and unwise, you can help people to cultivate wisdom, right? So there's certain skillful ways for you to be able to do that, but you need to be able to learn how to do that. And now, as you're doing this, where you're helping people gain confidence, you're helping them gain wholesome moral conduct, you're helping them to gain generosity, you're helping them to gain wisdom, the Buddha is saying, okay, you've done more than enough for your parents. And if you've done this 2 or 3 times and they're just not interested, and every single time you try, they turn away from it, then okay, you're done. Right? You've done more than enough for them. If you kept trying to force them and control them to do things, that's coming from your craving, desire, attachment. So there were situations with my sister initially when we kind of rekindled our relationship that I would say to her, you know, the Buddha has a really great teaching that would help you in that situation. And she wouldn't say anything. She wouldn't reply. And then maybe 6 months later, she would be having a difficulty and struggle. And I'll say, you know, the Buddha has some really insightful teachings that'll help you there. And she wouldn't say anything. And then maybe a year later, she would have some situation and I would say the same thing. And after these 2 or 3 times, my sister, even though we're talking about parents here, my sister didn't ask for any teachings. So I just stopped sharing with her. I stopped even attempting because I'd already tried, right? And then I stopped talking to her about the teachings. And it was several years later, and one time she contacted me and she sent me a message. She said, hey, there were some coworkers in work today talking about Buddhism, and they were asking me some questions, and I was answering their questions, and they were surprised that I was able to answer their questions. And I said, well, how did you answer their questions? She said, because I'm in your Facebook group. I saw it on your Facebook. She said, I've been reading your teachings. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that's what you've been doing. And I was like, that's great for you. Wonderful, right? So you don't know how people are going to interact with these teachings. You can try 1 or 2 or 3 times and then just let go. You don't need to keep trying, right? You've tried to settle or establish your parents in these teachings. And if they're not making efforts, then just let it go. Right? Just move on. And you never know at what point in their life they might choose to actually read or access these teachings. So this is what the Buddha suggests you do with your parents, is that, okay, you can do all these material things for them. That's fine. But you haven't really truly repaid them. You would like to help them cultivate the wisdom of how to improve the condition of their mind, which is going to improve their life and their relationships. And then we already talked about life partners. We kind of weave that into the conversation about the things that would be wise, is having a partner who understands that they're imperfect, that they're not blaming you for the feelings that they're experiencing, and that they're willing to get help and they're willing to do the work to improve. If you have a life partner like that, you guys can rock and roll. You guys can have a great life together, right? But if you have someone who thinks they are perfect, that you are the one who's causing their feelings, and they're unwilling to get help for the things that they need help with, that person is stuck, right? They're not going to get help, right? So that wouldn't be wise to be in that kind of relationship. You guys would be better off if you just moved away and you found a partner that was willing to acknowledge that they're imperfect, that they understand that you're not causing their feelings, and they're willing to get help and work and improve. And, you know, if you've been in a long-term relationship and you guys aren't there with each other now, you guys can have discussions and figure this out and get to a point where you guys do have those 3 qualities, because that's going to be really helpful for you. You need to take your time in selecting a life partner. If you had a multi-million-dollar company that you invested in and you're the owner of this company and you needed to hire a CEO for your company, you're going to take your time because you've got multi-million dollars at stake here. And whoever you hire for the CEO of your company, that company is going to live, breathe, and die based on who it is that you select as the CEO of that company. Well, you've got this really important position in your life, which is your life partner. And your life is going to be impacted by that choice. And you shouldn't take it lightly. You should take your time and make sure that you select someone who you think you can build a life together with. Here in Thailand, when you're dating someone, they actually don't call it dating. They actually call it learning each other. That you're spending time to learn each other and decide, is this somebody that I can really spend my life with, right? And you're learning about their habits and the way they do things. And over a period of 3 months, 6 months, you're learning this person and deciding whether this is the person that you would like to go forward in life together and build a wonderful life together. Because that's what you guys are going to need to be able to do. And you'd like to take your time and make sure you make a wise decision. Because if you make an unwise wise decision, it's going to be very impactful for you. So for example, if you pick someone who's addicted to drugs or alcohol, or someone who lies, or someone who goes out and has sex with other people outside of your relationships, or someone who steals, or someone who's very hateful and vindictive and causes harm to other beings, aggressive and hostile and bitter, this is going to be difficult for you. You'd like to observe this person in multiple different situations, like when you go out to restaurants, look at how they treat the food servers. When you get into a taxi, look at how they treat the taxi driver, because they're going to be treating you that way at some point. Listen to how they talk about their ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends. If they're degrading and diminishing that person, you're going to be the next person that they're talking in that way about. Are they talking in negative and degrading ways about their parents and their siblings? Because what they're indicating to you is that they have difficulties in relationships. They haven't figured out how to have healthy relationships yet. So if they're degrading and diminishing their parents, their siblings, if they're having degrading, diminishing talk about their ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends, if they're treating food servers and taxi drivers in unkind and unfriendly ways, you're just one more person in their life that they're going to be doing that same exact thing with. They're giving you indication that they don't know how to have healthy relationships yet. But if you're having craving because they're handsome or beautiful, if you're having craving because they're rich and wealthy, or they have some high social status, you'll overlook all those things. The next thing you know, you'll be a couple of years down the road in a relationship, not really enjoying the type of individual that you've selected, and now you're going to have a lot of difficulties. So take your time, look at them in many different situations, and listen to how they talk about people, because that's the way they're going to talk about you. And they're not going to be perfect right from the beginning, but if they understand that they're imperfect, if they understand you're not the one causing their feelings, and they're willing to get the help that they need to improve, now you can work with this person, because you've got some work to do. You're not perfect, and they've got some work to do, but you're doing that work, and you're both willing to do that work. Now you can build a wonderful life together. Okay, so any questions on any of this stuff that I was just talking about? Yes, ma'am. I think you need to turn it on. By the way, is this your boyfriend or husband? Because I have a feeling you're going to ask a question about that.
No, with parents. No.
Oh, okay.
How to tell the difference between attachment and...
Can you use the mic? I don't think it's turned on. Is it on? Did you press it? Did you press it? Did the lights come on? Okay. Yeah.
How to tell the difference between responsibility and attachment with your parents, because if something related to responsibility, it also make you feel like not feeling well. But if you ignore or like stay away from any discontent feeling with the responsibility, is that not selfish? Like if you have to taking care of your parents, or like you don't want like if your parents want you taking care of them or something, but you just want to like travel around the world, stay away from them, it's not selfish. But how to tell the difference?
Yeah. So what the unenlightened mind is going to do is it's going to take whatever qualities that mind has, and it's going to cast it onto another person, and then it's going to read those qualities as coming from the other person, when in reality it's coming from you. So as a parent, if a parent wants you to stay at home with them and take care of them, and you want to go travel, and that's your interest, but they want you to stay home with them, they might tell you, you are being selfish because you're going to travel and you're not taking care of me. Where in reality, it's their own mind that's being selfish, because they're having cravings and expectations of you. They're trying to put expectations on you to try to control you to do things their way. And they're reading their own selfishness as coming from you. So in reality, you don't have any responsibility to take care of your parents. That's not a true responsibility. That's an expectation that an individual might put on themselves, or the parents might try to put on you. But you shouldn't look at it that way. That there's really only one thing in the world that you have to do. There's only one thing that you have to do, and that is to die. That's the only thing. Everything else is optional. right? Whether you stay here and you come, whether you stay here, whether you choose to leave out of the class, it's all optional. It's up to you to choose for yourself. The clothes that you're wearing, that was an option. Your hairstyle, whether you ate breakfast this morning or not, this is all optional, right? There's no responsibility. But instead, an individual will put expectations on themselves, and then they will call it a responsibility, right? And now you'll feel pressured and controlled. And your parents might try to do that to you too. So if you realize that you have the ability to make any and all decisions that you like in the world, and now you just choose to make certain decisions for yourself of what you think is best, but there's no requirement or responsibility. The only thing you have to do is die. Everything else is optional. And now you can choose what you would like to do in any given situation. And if you'd like to take care of your parents, great, take care of them. If you'd like to travel, then you travel. But if you put an expectation on yourself that you will absolutely stay at home and take care of your parents, now you're going to feel pressured and controlled, and you're not going to be content and peaceful in that situation. So you'd like to just be able to make whatever decisions you feel comfortable with, and understand that that's going to change over time. And if other people are trying to put expectations on you and say, this is your responsibility to take care of me, you just need to identify that for what that is, which is their expectation. That's their craving. That's their desire. And you don't need to adopt that within your own mind to be your expectation, because putting expectations on yourself is very unwise, because you're not going to be able to meet them, and you're going to be discontent when you're not meeting your expectations. So you just make decisions about what you would like to do. So even like my son, I have a 13-year-old son. My wife is gone, and I'm essentially a single dad for about 2.5 months while she's gone. And she does that about twice a year. So for about 4 to 5 months out of the year, I'm a single dad, right? I don't think of it as I have a responsibility to take care of him. I'm choosing to take care of him. It's my choice. I don't have a responsibility to feed him, but I'm choosing to feed him. I don't have a responsibility to take him to school, but I choose to take him to learn certain things at school. That's my choice. It's not my responsibility. I'm not required to do it, right? I could choose to do it differently. There would be different results, but it's still a choice at the end of the day. So don't allow other people's expectation to become your expectation. Just make choices that you know to be wise based on the wisdom of what you learn, which if you learn the teachings of the Buddha, he'll teach you what's wise and unwise in life. But still, it comes down to your personal choices. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to grow and develop on the path to enlightenment with the teachings of the Buddha, because as you become a more peaceful and joyful person, it's helping you, it's helping those close to you, it's helping all the people around you and all of humanity. Because in the unenlightened state, we tend to cause a certain amount of harm in the world, and we don't even realize that's what we're doing. So if you've been practicing conditional love, even though there's no such thing as that, where you're falling in and out of love with people, you can learn more and more of what true love is. And learning about what it is and being able to practice it is two completely different things. So you shouldn't put the expectation on yourself that you're going to go outside and now practice true love with everybody around you just because we've been talking about it for a little while. Because you're going to need to learn more about it, and then you're going to need to gradually implement it in your life where you can do it more and more. It's going to take time to be able to gradually implement this into your life. So if you'd like to learn more, you're more than welcome to. There's plenty of opportunities for you to do that. I recommend people start with our first book. We have a 13-book series. The first book is the best one to start with, where you can download it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. And if you slowly start learning in that first book, this particular program on Sundays, each Sunday, I walk you through that book over a 7-month period. Now we're in chapter 15, but you can join this program at any time because I repeat it over and over and over again. So that would be the best place to start. This evening at 6:30, I'm going to be doing a meditation in the main hall. If you guys are coming for the walking market, or you'd like to come to the temple tonight at 6:30, I'm going to be meditating with students and then opening up to whatever questions you have. Tonight, we're going to be doing loving kindness meditation, which is a meditation that's going to actually help you practice true love. You're not going to be able to just learn about true love and go do it. You're going to need to actually transform your mind through meditation. That's going to essentially rewire your mind to be more loving and kind. And we're going to do that meditation this evening in the main hall. So you guys are welcome to come for that, because I'm going to guide you in that meditation, then open up to whatever questions you have about that meditation or anything else you'd like to talk about. This evening at 9 p.m. here at the same classroom, I'm going to just be doing the same exact talk, because I do it at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. because like right now, the people in Europe are sleeping and they can't attend live. So I have an opportunity for people to come here at 9 p.m. and I live stream again, and it's all recorded. So as you travel, if you'd like to attend by live stream, either at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m., you can. But also it's recorded on our YouTube channel and Facebook and on our podcast. So you can even watch these courses and learn in these courses at your own pace. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing loving kindness meditation again, and then opening up to questions that students have at 9 a.m. here, and then at 9 p.m. online. I do it from home, actually. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. If there's something that you'd like from me, feel free to come talk, and I will help you get plugged into whatever it is that you need to be able to learn and grow on this path. So take care and be well. We'll see you next time. Sawadee ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.